Growing up, I had no real training when it came to finances. I actually blundered my way into success because I didn't know how to manage money because we didn't have any money. I always saw my mom barely get by, what my grandmother would say, make do. That means you don't really have enough, but you make it enough, even if it means shrinking back what's needed to get the job done. So I didn't really have that financial literacy growing up, so to speak, but I did get that through classes that I did take out of prison, and I got good training of what to do with much by having little. So being able to be faithful over a little has brought me into a place of knowing how to manage much. So that was my financial training.
Finances for me before prison were non-existent. Growing up, I never had to worry about any of that. In school, I wasn't taught any of that. Even as an adult, my mindset wasn't on my credit or my credit score or how that would affect me later in life or anything like that. So I was the type that would just get credit cards and run them up and never pay them. And, that was just my mentality. After prison and coming home and realizing that it's pretty much everything, your credit score, especially now getting a job, a house, a vehicle, all of the above, that it's extremely important, and a lot of people don't know that at a young age, the significance of that.
When I was in prison, it's hard to set yourself up financially, simply because you cannot earn money. We work for free. So those that are depending on money, it's usually from family or friends, and it's their goodness of their heart. So you can take money when you leave if you have money sitting in your inmate trust account, but I did not have it set up that way. I had enough money to buy my necessities while I was in there, and that was fine. So when I left, I knew I was going to have things like student loan debt and different things that I had accumulated that I was going to have to deal with. A cell phone bill that didn't get paid because I broke the contract because I went to prison. A repossession because the car payment didn't get paid because I went to prison. Car insurance that I didn't get paid on the contract because I went to prison. But you can call it a God thing or you can just call it liability, but I had been in prison for 7.5 years, so by the time I got out, everything had gotten off my credit report. So I didn't have all those things to deal with necessarily, but integrity requires me to call and to fix those things so that I can. Because just because it's not on my credit report doesn't mean that if I wanted to do business with those companies again, they don't still have that in their records. They deal with honesty a lot better than they do the lies. My mother always told me you can't squeeze juice from a turnip. But at the same time, there's always, where there's a will, there's a way. They always will take pennies on a dollar. You may have IRS fees, you may have student loan debt, you may have a foreclosure from a home you did own. But if you will contact any and all of your creditors and just explain the situation to them, it's all public record, it's very verifiable. So they can sit there and tell you no, but that's all they're gonna do is tell you no. You can't do anything. It's not helping you, it's not hurting you, but being honest with them and telling them the situation, that you just returned from prison, that you're just getting on your feet, you wanted to let them know what your new address was, and that you wanted to be in contact with them and let them know in good faith that you do have every intention of repaying the debt or working towards the situation, then they're usually pretty open and honest with you, and they're more forthcoming and open to dealing with those situations than they are people that are not answering their phones or not answering their mail or anything else. So I just bite it off a little at a time. And as I've started doing things, the first thing I started doing was my student loan debt, just because it was easy to fix. It's not as hard as everybody thinks. You simply contact the Department of Education. They tell you where your student loan is and you contact them, and they have default programs, is what they call them. And in my case, it was simply paying $5 a month just to show good faith that I wasn't going to try to do this. And they sent it back with a new creditor and got me back out of deferment, or got out of default. And I was able to sign deferment papers so that I'm not paying on it for another year, because in my case, I was trying to go back to school, and you don't qualify for Title IV financial aid until your student loans are out of default. So I got them out of default and immediately started back to school. And now that I'm a student again, I don't have those payments to make. But in the meantime, if you continue to talk to them, if you are trying to make your payments, they have all sorts of programs now. They have an income-based repayment program that they go off your income, and they only take a certain percentage. So it's not as bad as you think. And I've learned not to ignore them and run. If you talk to them and you're open and honest with any creditor, they are all pretty much, I've had a few people just say it's been forgiven and written it off. I've had a few people that will allow me to pay a $5 a month or $20 a month, whatever I can afford, and it's just something they're taking off. It's not hurting me, it's not helping me, but it's just the integrity that's requiring me to do that. And I'm doing that so that I can better my credit rating and have credit references when I do need them.
Being locked up so long, I didn't have any kind of credit. I didn't have bad credit, but I didn't have any kind of credit. I don't remember even credit. I don't even remember there being such a thing as a credit score way back in the early 90s, when I first got locked up. I didn't know anything about that. And so I was encouraged kind of to, get credit cards and, help, like just small credit cards, and then help pay those off, and then that will help build your credit. But at the same time, the problem with that can be being locked up so long, you've done without for so long. And so you see all these things, and it's easy access, and it's easy to get swept up in that. In a way, it is being materialistic, but it's not either, because it's just you felt deprived for so long, and you just want all these things because you're out here, you're free, it's accessible, and then the bills start piling up, and so that can get a little carried away. And so now I don't even use credit cards. I have a gas card, and that's about it. So it's just best maybe to get one if you want to just try to build your credit up, and just let it be at that. But don't go, if you can't buy it with like money, then just don't. That's the way I look at it now.
So I'm a little untraditional. I do use credit cards quite a bit because I like the points, and they literally give you cash back. When you're spending your money that's cash, you don't get any cash back, but you have to be very, very careful. Like, I know that I only have this much to spend, and I can't go over that on my credit cards. I have to be able to pay it off the next month. I don't like to carry a balance unless there's an emergency or something like that. But I traditionally always pay off my balance the next month. So I will tell you, it can get away from you quick, like Christmas shopping or medical bills. Sometimes you can pay them over the phone, and you just have to make sure you allocate that money to go there the next month. I think that's the most important thing. Unfortunately, credit cards usually have a very high interest rate, like 23 to even 30%, and that's unfortunately, when you do carry a balance, you have to pay that money, and that's just money for nothing. So it is important to be very cautious in what you spend and make sure you can cover it every month.
That's the best way to do it. Every month you write down what you owe, when it's due, and that way you can determine if you get paid every week, every 2 weeks, once a month. You can determine what bills you pay when. That keeps you from being late, that keeps you from overspending, because we tend to, if we don't pay the bills like we're supposed to, when we're supposed to, you go out with your friends and eat at a restaurant when really you shouldn't have. An extra $10 sometimes can throw you off. That's how I maintain everything. If it's anything left over, I sit down and decide what's the most important thing that I need right now.